early on, if I needed somebody to go be the jump coach, well, I know Mosley wants to be the sprint coach, but I need a jump coach, go do it. You know, that type of thing. Or I need somebody to go to the throws. Well, I know you had a good throw over at Westport. Go do that for a while. Until finally he just twisted my arm and made me keep him in the sprint job. And so he kind of took all those sprinters under his wing and got them working on their handoffs, got them working on their block starts. And, you know, he's a very dependable guy. He fills in your negative space. Mm-hmm. So, like, if it's something that Coach Jefferson doesn't want to do, Mosley's got it. I don't even have to ask him. He's already got it, you know. Mark Dickerson is one of my best friends, you know. So he's a guy who he gave up teaching about 2-3 years ago. You remember? Was he around when you were there?
No, I remember Coach Mosley being there.
Okay.
But I don't remember if Coach Dickerson was there or not.
Dickerson was. So what I try to do for cross country is, especially at Central, is difficult to encourage inner city urban youth to come run 5K. You know? Yeah. So the ploy that I use is I want to find some athletes. So I want to get some basketball guys and basketball girls if I can. And so I'll talk to the basketball coaches and I'll say, hey, why don't you have your guys come over with me. I'll get them their physicals. I'll get them in shape. I'll let them play some basketball when we're done running, and they'll be ready to go by the time basketball season comes. And so Dickerson was an assistant coach under Ferris. You guys had him on the show not too long ago.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, I made that deal with Ferris, and Dickerson would bring the guys over. And so we get those guys ready, and we won. With some of those basketball guys, we won 8 conference championships in a row and got several of those people down the state, you know what I'm saying? So, and then if I get them out for cross country, they do basketball, and sometimes I do basketball with them. I might even get a few of them out for track and make it work there too. So,
yeah, that's fantastic. You know, we talked about the multi-sport athlete, and I mean, you know, at a smaller school, I mean, you got to share your athletes.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
I mean, you have to have, you know, all your athletes have to be doing something all year round. And I mean, especially at a school like Central where you're battling some other issues too. You know, getting them out for that fall sport, if they think they're a basketball player, is key, because you mentioned the physical piece. Well, they've already got to have their physical on file to do cross country in the fall. So when winter comes around, they're good to go.
The one I probably left out was probably the most key in terms of, you know, getting that basketball coach relationship is the keeping them focused piece, because when these guys sit idle hands do the devil work.
Yeah.
You know, and so they get off task and they mess up with their teachers and they, walk out or don't show up or that type of thing, and grades start to slip. So we are constantly on them every week. If they are in the cross-country program, that goes over to the basketball program, and they come back in the track season, we make sure that, you know, all the way through the school year that they're being accounted for and they're being held accountable. Right. And hopefully they'll come back the next year a little bit more mature and in good standing to be able to participate. So,
well, Coach, you talk about the staying checks, you know, the checks and balances that athletes make kids go through. St. Joe is considering going to one school from 3 public schools there. That is one thing where I think is the big mistake, because there's a lot of low income, some poverty in St. Joe. You take away all those activities from all those schools. Now where are the kids? I mean, that's
you lose
activities
spots,
keep. I mean, whether it's drama or band or whatever, you're going to lose a ton. And that I understand. The mega schools are the big thing, and saves money and blah blah blah. But what's most important? Why do we have schools? To educate kids and keep them going positive forward.
And I'm a big proponent of sports being, in education, and I know a lot of educational leaders aren't.
Right. Yeah.
And I understand that the main thing has to be the main thing, but I think we also have to
work together.
We have to meet kids where they are, because we want to move state scores forward. The kid didn't wake up this morning thinking about how I'm going to get prepared for my math EOC.
Yeah.
They didn't wake up with that on their mind. What they woke up with their mind on is, hey, I got to get ready for the game today, or I got to get ready for the meet. But in order to, a prerequisite for being in that game is that I have to take care of the business in the classroom, or I have to make sure that my grade meets a certain standard. I have to make sure I get these test scores. So, I think they go hand in hand. And from what I gather, the level of focus it takes to be an athlete the level of drive it takes to be an athlete walks right into the classroom with them, and then out into the real world. So I think the athletes who are driven in their chosen sport go out into the real world and become driven individuals who are successful. So
they all work hand in hand. You're right. It works hand in hand.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a firm believer in, that the athletes are going to be better students because they can do athletics. I feel like if you take that away, you're going to lose a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And say, well, now I really got nothing.
Now school really gets boring.
Yeah.
No joke. Yeah, I mean, now it gets really boring.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about sports will teach them a lot. I mean, it's physical, but it's also a lot of it's mental, and it's also confident. Confidence is probably a big thing too. You're able to do something like that. You build confidence, and then you can build confidence in the classroom and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said before. I mean, I think being bored or boredom is like the worst thing. Not even for anybody, kids, adults, anything. Just being bored, nothing to do. Kids especially could do a lot of destructive things if they don't have something to occupy their time with. So it's it's always cool to talk to coaches that kind of believe that too, because it's true.
Well,
You want to get those guys doing extracurricular activities. And you said drama stuff too.
Right,
those things are important.
Right, everything's important. I mean, whatever the kid's interest is important. And And I recently went back to my high school coach's retirement party. And he went on and coached at the University of Tulsa. Followed Bill Self there. I went back to his retirement party because of the man he was. I maybe remember one teacher I had. I remember just about every coach I had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to say, look, but when you're in athletics, how much time do you? I mean, that's another family.
You build a whole different type of relationship. I mean, another man you listed earlier was Richard Samuels, and so Richard Samuels was a Hall of Fame coach for the Missouri Track and Cross Country Coaches Association. So we started a meet at Central and named a relay after him and some of the other people that are on that list. But he's somebody who took me across this country with cross country and track. He as a high school senior, he took me down to Baton Rouge to run an AAU cross country meet. He took me down to Joplin to run a championship meet. He took me to Indianapolis to go watch the indoor national championship for NCAA. As a young coach, he took me to Virginia as we went and coached a few people in AAU track meet and several other places across this country. So, I mean, those road trips with the coach, you sit down and you talk about personal issues. That relationship is unlike anything that you can build in the classroom with a teacher. I mean, you can build some good relationships with teachers, but the relationship between an athlete and a coach is completely unique.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned AAU. Okay, Ochai Abachi, they're talking about somebody that's a really good basketball player. He was sold. You've got to play in the off season. You can't do multi sports. You can't. You've got if these other guys that are as good as you, D1 players are good because you were a specialized athlete too, but you did more than track and field, right?
I did cross country. I did a little basketball, and I did track. But I did some other things growing up, baseball growing up, that type of thing. So,
but
soccer.
AAU, whether it's soccer, baseball, whatever, basketball has become a business. They don't want multi-sport athletes because when their high school's off season is over, they want them going to. That's become, and that's why all these college coaches are in trouble. It's a different business.
The key word there is business.
Right.
I mean, those guys are in it to make money, whereas high school coaches obviously are not getting rich.
Right.
I mean, we're trying to develop athletes, at least guys that I know and guys that I've been around. Guys like you are doing it for the right reasons to help kids, not to I mean, the winning is fun and getting guys to state and competing at a high level, all that's fun, but. When I go back and I think of different kids that I've coached over the years, it's the relationship. I mean, it's the relationship with a football coach that kind of led me down the career path I went on.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily a teacher. And, I mean, I had good teachers too, but, it's that relationship with the coach, like you said. Those after-hours things, like, just being able to talk to them.
You got to put the recruiting in any sport back into the high school coach's hands. You have to put it back. I mean, I was at my first AAU Under Armour event here in the arena last year, and, I mean, Roy Williams, Huggy, Kim Anderson, you just name them. They don't even put them in the seats up here. They put them down on the floor, and it's just one big coaches' convention looking at all these players. It's a business.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a totally different deal.
Yeah.
But so what are some of the biggest challenges, coaching in the inner city and being in the inner city as a teacher and a coach? What are some of the biggest challenges, especially with track?
Well, with track is not easy.
Yeah.
Track is hard work. I mean, one of the mantras I use, and I think a lot of track coaches do, but I wear this one out, is that you guys play football, you guys play basketball, we don't play track.
Okay.
This is hard work, so you have to come out here and train, and so we'll find some athletes, and they'll look like they have some talent, but if they're not ready to we're putting your body in situations that it has never been in your life. And so some people don't react to that well. And so a lot of times what happens is, for instance, if I get a freshman out, and that freshman will go through the season, and body will hurt, the body will ache, and they'll might see some progress, but they'll struggle too. And coach, my this, my that, no. But when they come back that sophomore year, and they're a little bit more salty by then, and they felt that kind of strain, and they've been to the well. And so you can kind of take them back, and then that's when you start to see that step forward, in that second year. If you get them by the third and fourth year, they're ready to go, so.
Another thing is, too, they probably, if they're multi-sport athletes, they probably see, like they go back, like they do track and they go back and play something else. They could probably see, like, man, I'm in like great condition.
Yes.
Well, shoot, this track thing might be helping me out.
Yes.
But then they get there and then they're like, man, it's not easy. Basketball wouldn't be easy, but they'll already be conditioned or whatever. Like you were saying before, where you and Ferris would get the athletes or whatever. So they were like, man. So then they'll go back and be like, okay, this is helping me out. I'm going to keep on doing it. That's a great point.
I had a conversation on Facebook a few months ago. Guy who Ferris had, probably as a young guy, probably a freshman, sophomore. He just graduated last year, and he got a scholarship to a local university. I think it's up in Iowa.
Cool.
And so, he kind of threw a shout out to me and said, "Hey, man, I felt like I was dunking a long time ago because of the work I was putting in with cross country and track, that type of thing." And so, we're out there building better athletes, and the basketball coach can't help but benefit from that when we're putting those better athletes out there. And I think track and football are married.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you got a guy out there for football, he's a skilled guy, bring him out here with me, and we'll get him better. And my guy, like I said, my guy Drayshawn Sanders was murdering in football his senior year, played in the Mocan game, and I think that's a tribute to how much work you put in on the track.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of, as a young coach, I felt like these guys they can concentrate on football things all year and do that, but the more I got into it and the more I learned as I grew up, it's like, no, I want my football guys to go play basketball or wrestle in the winter. I want them to all go run track. And I'm nothing against baseball. I love baseball. But, I'm pushing kids, hey, go run track.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get you faster. It's going to develop different muscles that are going to help you be a better football player. And, if we have a bunch of good football players, chances are we'll have a pretty good football team.
Right.
There's other things that go into it, but I think there's nothing better for those guys to do in the spring. And again, no disrespect to baseball. I think hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do in all of sports. Yeah.
Now that might be a sport where you might have to specify.
Yeah,
that's a unique skill.
That is.
Well, and the kids in baseball and soccer are signing at very young ages too, so it makes it harder.
Yeah. So for baseball, that may be one that you might have to do that 24/7. But with football, coming out there and doing track,
oh yeah,
you're a Cowboys fan. Who's the tailback?
Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel Elliott was a
track guy
at on the St. Louis side, and I think he scored 38 points at the state meet. And for those of you who don't know track, that means he finished first, and second at the state meet in 4 different events there. So I remember watching him, and he was a beast over the hurdle. So I think you've taken that into the NFL. So to me, I think those two sports need to be married. I think we just build better athletes, and the other component is I think you want your kids competing. Because I think if you're in the off season, you're lifting weights, their mind kind of strays and they're not really locked in. But